Welcome, fellow travelers. I'm Sersei Kimura, and I'm joining Chibi and Vertic at the Golden Feather. Come on in, grab a seat, and let's share tales of adventure.
Hello. Welcome to the Golden Feather Tavern, where your hosts, Chibi and Vertic, discuss Ashes of Creation and important topics spoken about within the Ashes community. Every week, we invite you, the viewer, and a special guest, or two, to pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join the conversation with us. Today is the 19th of May, 2023. We have episode 169. Whose role is it anyway? And the traveling bards joining us today are Sersei and Joe of Gilded House. How are you folks today?
Doing well. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure as always. So, tell us a little bit about yourselves for those of our community. I mean, we've had a few of you, your members on recently, but for those of our community who are maybe just tuning in for the first time in a little while or have yet to meet you, who is Gilded House? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Gilded House is a roleplay community. We founded ourselves just almost a year ago, so we're actually pretty new, and we've just kind of grown over time to really build out a great base of membership. Two of people, Nahili and Tony, which have both been on, to really build this great group of talented members and build these great stories. Joe here, he is our story officer, and he's really taken the reins for that. I think right now, like we built 14, or is it 15 different roleplay threads, Joe, in our community alone?
15 that are currently running, and then we have about 7, I think, that have completely closed out, that we saw through to complete. We saw through until their conclusion, and then moved on to new threads afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. And this is our first time having a dinosaur, and what race are you, ma'am?
I am going to be a Valoon.
A Valoon. I think this is our first Valoon as well. Do you mind introducing yourselves? Who are you guys?
Yeah, I am Sersei Kimura, of House Kimura, a Valoon noble house that was from back in Vera and has now landed in Sanctus and is looking for, trying to rebuild the family name, basically. And Sersei is a character that is left the reins of basically her family and trying to build back its grandeur that it had in Vera, and kind of take that path.
Well, I'm sad to say that I don't actually roleplay as a velociraptor, even though it would be awesome. But no, I actually have a number of characters, and mostly NPCs that I play in the community. But I do have 2 characters that I intend to play myself. One of them named Wyatt, and the other one Fiona, which are both characters that I've had for a very long time. And they're actually, their background and story is actually tied around the Guild storyline. The Guild storyline is not about them in any way, but where they, their interactions have been built around bringing this investigation to the guild in character, and looking for a missing caravan that House Kimura had lost recently. And so my characters are really based around that, but I'm happy to say that I joined the guild almost a year ago myself, shortly after the original founding, and it was all thanks to Sersei's great story concept, and all of the amazing graphics and visuals and forum posts and everything that she put together as what really drew me in, and why I invest so much into our storylines now.
Okay, that's really awesome. So why Ashes of Creation? What drew you guys to make a guild for Ashes of Creation?
Yeah, I think, as a lot of communities and a lot of people, we travel through different communities and different games. Originally, actually, I was following Chronicles of Illyria, as a lot of poor people did. And after that kind of flopped, I was kind of in this space where, I put a lot of effort into building up, story and a community for Chronicles of Illyria. And when that flopped, it was like kind of one of those moments like, what do I do next? And I have a roleplay community that I'm actually part of that exists beyond just one game. And we were talking in that community about, potentially having a presence in Ashes of Creation. And back when Chronicles Illyria was a thing, it was kind of an unspoken rivalry between those two games, because it was like, which one's going to finish first, which one's going to be better and everything. And obviously I was on the other side for a while. But once that didn't work out, like I looked into it, I really actually took time and I was like, wow, this game is got a lot of potential. And for role players, a lot of that for us is immersion and storytelling and, having a world that we can kind of create a real presence in. And what I really enjoyed about Ashes of Creation, with Steven's vision for it, it's just got so much potential for roleplay. From the node system itself, which you can kind of create your own, basically build up your own world, which is really awesome. And then just having the ever-evolving environment and the physics of the world, there was just so much potential there that it's kind of hard to ignore. So I actually joined a small group of people. It was people in the guild I was in, and we were starting to form the roleplay community for Ashes of Creation. And from there, like, I met so many great people, made some great friends and relationships, and I was just kind of enjoying that presence until I did at some point I was like, you know what? I want to try my hand at, taking a lot of what is exciting and amazing about Ashes of Creation and kind of put some of that into a role play community. So for Gilded House, for instance, Gilded House isn't just a noble family. It's not just, one thing. Gilded House is made up of 3 different core branches. We've got Phoenix Antiquities, which is a trading company. We have Gilded Ventures, which is an adventuring company and also has a lore and knowledge-seeking side to it. And then we have the Obsidian Order, which is a mercenary order. So there's lots of different play styles that people can enjoy, whether it's PvE, PvP, economy. But mixed in that, there's a lot of story elements and roleplay opportunities. So it's a mix of kind of what Ashes is doing is you've got these great mechanics in the game, but you can merge that with roleplay in a way that a lot of games kind of hinder that, coming from a lot of communities like when I played Arcade and a lot of games, it's kind of difficult to always merge roleplay and the actual mechanics of the game. But Ashes seems to be taking it in a way where you can actually work those together. And that was what was really exciting for me, to be able to build that story narrative with a game that's going to allow us to kind of bring those two things together.
That's pretty cool, actually. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys grow. And I know that you are part of the more wider roleplay community as well within Ashes, not just within your own Discord. But I wanted to ask, first off, I wanted to say we'll get further into different roleplay topics going forward. That's one of our topics for today, as well as a little bit of theory crafting, especially around some lore, and then some other general topics and about like how the live stream is getting pushed back and what that means for our next podcast. So before we get to all that, though, what kind of things do you guys do in terms of community? Are you guys more community focused as in like the general community? Do you host events and stuff, or are you more like centrally focused?
So one big thing that we've kind of, just to kind of give some background, when the roleplay community itself was first formed, I was brought on as a moderator, so I played a part in that.
Nice.
Until eventually, after I made my guild, I stepped down to focus on my guild. But So I've always kind of had this connection with the roleplay community that I want that community to flourish. Aside from my own community, I still want that community itself to be successful. And I believe, for a roleplay community to succeed and for there to be growth in it, you want that community to be successful. So that's kind of always been my positioning. For Gilded House specifically, you've all seen and shared, we're doing our YouTube videos, our lore series, which goes over Ashes of Creation lore, but also our own guild lore. So that's exciting. We've got our website, which is becoming more and more interactive as it tells about our community, and we're adding a whole lore codex on there too.
Nice.
Really big on social media engagement. So like we do now have the Twitch page, we've got Twitter, and we try to keep engaged through that as well. We have we do at least 2 different community events a month. We do a community focused town hall type meeting, and then we do a role play meeting as well, which kind of focuses on our story narrative. Joe here takes the helm of that. And then in addition to that, we play with different games, and we kind of work as a community to play and plan those out, do those things in our Discord as well, just to kind of get people to interact and have fun. But I'd like to say it's a mix. We like to keep our engagement. A big part about our community is that community engagement piece, making sure, we're not just sitting here waiting for a game, because that could take forever.
Right.
But we are engaging with others and kind of bringing them in. We've actually done that by engaging with other gaming communities too. We've actually recently engaged with some of the PAX Day roleplay community there.
Nice.
It's to bring people and role players into our community and introduce them to Ashes, because I've learned over time that a lot of people, their radar, like some games aren't on their radar until you tell them about it. So we've actually converted some people that were interested in PAX Day and other games over to Ashes. So that's been exciting too.
That's awesome. I really am a big fan of role playing. I haven't really gotten into it in a very long time, so I feel like I'd be really, really rusty, but it does definitely have a special place in my heart, especially as a DM for D&D and other games like that. I'm always trying to orchestrate interesting storylines for my players and encourage them to role play with each other. After all, I'm trying to make the world that they're playing in feel very realistic, and I could very much see something like that happening within Ashes of Creation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've actually never played D&D.
Oh my gosh.
I know. People are just like, that's so weird that you haven't. But
I think it would be really cool to orchestrate, like maybe get some roleplay community members in, and then maybe Vertec or I could orchestrate like a one shot for you guys to kind of join in one time.
I think that would be awesome. I would definitely be down for that. And he's been doing D&D and all that since he was like 14 years old.
Nice.
Oh no, since I was 5.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Making the character sheet with crayons.
Well, no, it's funny. My dad was, he did Dungeons and Dragons, both first and second edition. And he was in the military, and he was deployed on a ship all but 90 days a year. And they had nothing to do. There was no internet back then. You couldn't really get TV on board, at least not on his ship. So they played a lot of D&D. And one day he just decided to make the house into a dungeon, and we played. And my sister played for about 3 minutes and then ran away. And we were so into it. And it's actually a really long story, so I won't go over the whole thing. But I started running games when I was about 12, and I've been doing that for a very long time now.
So part of Stranger Things kind of resonated with you, yeah?
Wait, real quick. Ashes and Air, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you, Nara. Yes, cheers.
Appreciate you. Yeah, Stranger Things, love it. Honestly, I loved this entire new season. I'm looking. Is there another season? That was the last one.
Nope, one more coming.
I thought there was one more. Okay, I was like, I can't wait for that one to come out. So.
Yeah, it'll probably be 2024 at this point, unfortunately.
Probably.
But
well, we're still waiting for another Wheel of Time season, which I was told was supposed to come out for my birthday and it never happened.
Yeah. That would have been the normal timing, but
yeah.
Listen
says, my first D&D character was a rogue that stood in the back of a tavern by himself with his hood on, saying nothing to anyone. That sounds like a rogue that I have in my party.
Sounds pretty on brand for rogue. Yep.
Alexia,
thank you.
Cheers to you too. I don't have a heart hand, otherwise I'd totally do heart hands back. That is a goal though. I would like to get heart hands, so. But honestly, my first time role-playing was reading people's role-playing threads and observing, because that's always my first thing. Like, that's how I got into Pathfinder and D&D. If for anybody who's interested in getting into roleplay, I definitely recommend reaching out to Sersei and other roleplay community members, because I'm sure they'd be happy to introduce to you how to get into roleplay or how to better your roleplay. Maybe Sersei, at some point we could chat about doing maybe like a little mini series of how to get into roleplaying and get better at it, etc. I feel like that could be a helpful little mini series that perhaps you and I could work on at some point if you're open to it. But
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was like, I think that's awesome, because I think, for me, my first roleplay experience was, it's one of those things when you first get into roleplay, you don't understand it's roleplay.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, and I just kind of followed along with this group that were role-playing. And I, over time, understood it and really got into it. And like you said, like, I would just, back in the times of Engine, rip, I would literally look at the forums, because there were so many amazing role players and writers that wrote such amazing stories that I would just read through them, and it's like I'm reading through like a novel.
Yeah.
And it's some of the most beautiful things I've ever read and interesting, and I'm just going through and I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, that's kind of like I was like, I want to create characters that have, like, it feels real, like they've got these lives and what they do matters. And that's what role play is, building these immersive stories. And what I've learned, in the communities that I've managed or been part of, and kind of in the way that we've shaped Gilded House, is that we're not, we do role play up to heavy role play, but we also, like, the best part of this community that I've seen is that we've been able to bring in people that have never role played before and get them to build their characters and honestly build great stories for people that have never role played before. And these are people that I've gamed with before who were just like, I don't understand what role play is. And all it takes is like a conversation to understand that. And then they're like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I love this. I don't think most people understand that roleplay, you don't have to make it that deep, but it adds value to your character. Like, it makes you feel more connected to the character you're building. And, you might be like, I defeated this big raid boss or what have you. But it means more, I think, when you built that actual connection with your character and like, this is Sir Fluffy Pants and he's done this, all these great deeds and stuff. You can build a story with something silly like that too, which I think is really fun. But I like the idea of the mini series. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Sir Fluffy Pants sounds like an amazing warrior duckling. Just saying.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we have to make a random character now, because Mavi Coffee, I feel like, embodies with the two emotes what maybe Sir Fluffy Pants could be like in terms of personality.
It just Mavi
feels like it fits that to a T.
So as you said, you haven't played D&D before. One game we can highly recommend jumping in just to kind of check out the way the game is played and kind of get that style of tabletop play is Emberwind.
Yeah.
Emberwind is fantastic.
I definitely have a coupon code for you if you would want to try it out at any point. Because actually we both fell in love when we went to MagFest, didn't we?
Yeah, we went to a convention. We sat down at a table where they were demoing a game because there was just a giant hall full of demo tabletop games, and that was one we sat down at. We must have been there for an hour and a half playing a 15-minute tutorial episode.
Yeah. And then started teaching other people how to play.
Yeah. It was actually kind of a blast.
To the point, some of our friends, like one of them that is in my D&D group that I usually have on Sundays, which is on pause right now, but will be off pause after we get situated with the new house and everything. We met him at that same convention, like trip that we made, and we invited him and another friend that we were just doing a different campaign with up to the room to play that same night that we bought the game. We're like, hey, do you want to like actually play this? We went up to the room and I think stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning playing through it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be some of the most fun and gratifying times.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the game's kind of neat because you can play it without a DM, like completely. You can just take turns reading the story part until you get to certain decision points, and then the way they printed the book, it'll actually stop at like the bottom of a page, and you just don't flip the page until everybody knows what decision they need to make, and they make it. You can also have a DM that runs it and kind of exists to increase or decrease difficulty of the game based on how quickly you're flying through and how many points you earn with certain actions. But the NPCs actually have has like a little AI built into it, where when you pass a certain skill level in the game, when people start doing really well and progressing through certain portions really fast, all the enemies learn extra skills, and depending on what you roll for a die determines what skill they use, as well as what difficulty they are. You can roll with they go to move a couple squares and then attack, or they just attack the nearest person, or they go after the last person that attacked them, that type of thing. It's really neat.
It sounds like they built
really cool.
Yeah, and it sounds like they built it a lot like how the Pathfinder Society modules are built, where, you can increase the difficulty if you have, either more players or higher player levels, since they usually are building with a range. So that's really interesting how they've made that. Yeah.
Also, they said that they built it for people with ADHD and things like that. So, one of the game developers is actually, I believe, a therapist.
Yeah, licensed therapist. Ended up developing it for a bunch of people with like learning and cognitive issues. So it's neat though. It turned out to be a really cool game. But yeah, you might enjoy it.
Off of that side tangent though.
Let's move on.
You guys put in here about role-playing settings, roller coaster events versus player-driven events. Can you tell us some more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, when you're writing RP stories, there's really, there's two kinds of RP stories. There's the ones that the results are going to happen no matter what, almost like the module play, where, hey, the module, it has this set course that you have to follow. And then with player-driven settings, which is what we're very passionate about, is player-driven settings are where the actions change based on what the player does. When you're designing a story, you're not designing this is a 4 or 6 hour event that's going to go from A to B, and then the next event will go from A to B. You're designing it more on, hey, here's the things that are happening, and what are the players going to do, and how are they going to engage with that, and how is that going to reshape where the story goes. Right. And that's what all of our events are based around, are really, when what the players do really matters. And that's very much, we've designed the RP events that way because Ashes of Creation is very much the same way. What you do in the game turns around, it matters, and drives the world based on it. So we wanted to make sure that we had events that were built the same way. And that's kind of the philosophy behind that. I know, from previous RP experiences, one of the things that always was really hard for me was where you go into an event and you go a little bit off course and you hit a guardrail, and we see that in MMOs. Like I love Final Fantasy 14, but we see that in Final Fantasy 14 where you hit a certain point and you have to go back on the rails. Yeah. I think it's important with stories in a game like this that we don't really make those rails, because you could be making a story based around a town, and the next thing you know, that town is gone, or that town has become a city. How does that change your story? You have to be ready for that. And So that's something that we're very passionate about.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that you guys get more involvement and more engagement from the community, because I think as the time goes, in terms of getting in through Alpha 2 and betas, we'll just get more and more, I guess, viewership from just the masses of different people. And with having a group of role players and different, I guess, roleplay guilds to choose from. And I think you guys interact with each other quite a bit. You at least seem aware of each other in terms of the other role-playing guilds and stuff like that. And so it'd be kind of cool to see you guys interact from guild to guild together, like the Dwarven Guild versus the Empyrean Guild. I think it'd be really cool to see those just natural interactions between you guys and the community in general.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. And that's the fun part, is that a lot of those interactions are happening behind the scenes, like, well, not even behind the scenes, but in, you know, we've got people in Dunhold hanging out and gaming together and stuff like that. So it's, you know, we have those relations. So it's kind of like, right now we've got the out of character relationships, but at some point we'll have those in-character relationships too. And like you said, it's going to be really cool to see how different characters and people just interact as we go forward and as the community grows. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. Right on cue to bring up Elven Guilds. I had to.
Nice.
But I think with that, we should get into our main topic, which, you know, bringing up different racial options. What about a way to implement racial languages?
I think that would be cool, because in Arcage, they had the different languages. And like, from my character in Arcage, like, I made that like part of their character, like that they studied all these languages and they actually did it in character and out of character. So then, you know, when I would travel to the other continent where the dialect was different, that she could actually communicate, which was actually very cool from a mechanica standpoint, that I actually could. It wasn't just me trying to role play it. It actually, I actually had the ability to talk with, you know, the other races. So I think that'd be a cool addition to the game. And I think it would make sense, you know, that, you know, if you have a clan like of Iray or, you know, dwarves or what have you, that they might have a different dialect or among themselves than when they are talking to outsiders. And maybe there's some struggle in communicating, or maybe there's just like some words that are lost in translation. So I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think it was originally EverQuest was the first one that actually did the different languages, and you know, it added something to the game, you know, and that's where EverQuest had the original EverQuest, and I'm really dating myself here, but they had such a great RP community because there were so many things that the game offered, you know, for different races and for different cultures, it's funny because EverQuest Next is actually what got me into Ashes of Creation, because, you know, there was supposed to be a new version of EverQuest, and it was supposed to do the things that Ashes is doing, where, you know, the world can change based on what the players do in their quests and based on what the different choices you make are. And unfortunately, just like Chronicles of Valyria, it fell apart and it died. But you know, it's great to see that some of those concepts are still out there, and hopefully Ashes of Creation adopts the same thing with those languages as well. Oh yeah, good callback there, Babby.
Mabby says, you're only a few million years old, Joe. Still young.
Practically a dinosaur, my lord.
Man. Sorry to throw you off there.
No, it was a great moment there. But yeah, you know, if they can do it how, you know, how EverQuest originally did it and how ArcAge did it, I think that would be a great benefit to the game, and hopefully they stay away from how World of Warcraft did it back in the old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of tricky. Out of respect for like the different play modes and whatnot, as well as coming in from, I mean, everybody started way back in the day. All the parent races were all on the same planet and just different regions around there, right? And then they got sent to another planet, which presumably might have been smaller. And then they all got teleported back. You would think that there'd be some mingling and whatnot between them. So maybe they developed kind of a common language, just if nothing else from the trauma alone of, okay, so that happened. Let's see if we can band together a little tighter.
That's perfect, because Ashes and Nair says it would make a lot of sense for the Tolnar language to have evolved differently than the divine races. He says, I think we saw that during the Extra Life stream as well, but the other 8 races were all together on Sanctus for millennia, and it kind of makes sense that they've made a common language there, which aligns with what you just said.
Yeah, if nothing else.
I think that's a good point too about the Tolnar.
Thank you.
Morris, thank you much.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think the Tolnar are gonna be an interesting race to actually see how they, just more about their story and all of that, and how they've lived. You know, they've basically lived the kind of outcast type of life compared to the other races. But yeah, I think the common tongue, like having a common dialect, makes sense. But then each race could potentially have its own personal dialect that, you know, if the Pyrean elves just wanted to talk with their own race, they could just switch that dialect, and the same thing with the other races as well. And then making that a learnable experience would be cool, because then you could literally have a clan of Pyrean elves or Empyrean elves, or even Valoon humans or something, that if they wanted to, they could all just talk their own language. And it gets into that point where you could play an interesting game if someone doesn't know the language, you can communicate things however you want. So it just adds a different play style.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I could totally see, because unlike World of Warcraft, there's not going to be any factions and Ashes of Creation, but within World of Warcraft, they have being able to talk in the different languages, like Orcish, etc. So I could totally see somebody from an Empyrean line trying to speak natural tongue towards, like, I don't know, maybe like a Pyrean or another, like an alien human. And because there's those other languages, sure, there's the common language, but you could almost role play out that interaction of like somebody tilting their head trying to figure out what you're talking about, and then like using gestures and like context role play to get your point across until slowly you learn each other's language a little bit. Like, that could be fun. I could see that. I especially loved that in terms of like Pathfinder and D&D, where one of them were trying to purposefully roleplay out like not understanding what the other person was saying in their language, and was trying to use those context clues to get their point across. That's actually how one of my players befriended a goblin.
How neat would it be, like thinking about like languages and whatnot, if you could slip into whatever racial language you had, but also if some of the organizations had their own, like D&D has something called Thieves' Cant, where you can kind of slip hidden messages into other people who speak that. How neat would it be to, even in public, be able to have like 2 little chat boxes if you know Thieves' Cant, and you type out the message that, you know, normal people see, and then the message that people with Thieves' Cant would read?
That would be
2 separate messages sent out. Yeah. And like the people who see it in Thieves' Cant would see one in like parentheses or something. Like, here's what everybody else heard, but here's what you heard.
That's funny. I love that. Oh, probably. Yeah, Dunehold is probably already looking for that. Night Mage says you can replicate that sort of thing, but with DMs.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, that's definitely
to have it kind of built in like that, though.
Right? The website looks pretty awesome, I have to say.
And having the different languages in DM, that's definitely a fun part of role play, both in game and even on Discord. You know, what some people see versus what the other people see. You know, that it adds a clever element that allows you to really make the experience, make it more personal to the character that you're playing with, or if in the case of a GM, make it more personal to the players in your event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically we were saying that you guys would have the Dwarven language already prepped up for as a Dunehold like goal. And they apparently already have a bot for that, so it works out well.
Just make sure to hit up Z, because she already translated all the runes from the Ashes
Z
videos.
loves translating those.
Yeah, they have their rune language already.
Yeah, that's
yeah, she's already got it translated. I think it took a day after the images were released.
She was like, I know what these are.
I got it.
I got it. So let's talk about role-playing and running events in a world that reshapes around actions. So that's going to be the fun part about Ashes, right? Because each server is going to be different, and what you guys experience on your server may be different if we're on different servers than our server. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on those? Just the ever-changing aspect of Ashes.
I think it adds a dynamic that, like, even now we're kind of just speculating like how great it's going to be and what what it's going to mean for role play. But I think it's going to add in a dynamic that's just something we've never seen before in a game. Being able to really engage with the world and tie that into the type of role plays and stories that you're building. And Sersei has talked multiple times in our own meetings about like how important it'll be. You can set up a caravan run, which is a real mechanic in the game, and actually role play it out and role play out the results of it and role play out, what, some of the things that might have happened along the way on the trip. Like there's so many new aspects that it can open up. And even in the case of like villages and cities, you'll be able to really, shape new stories around, hey, there's a city here today and now it's not. What does that mean for your community? What does that mean for your guild? How does that impact your players? Maybe players had homes in that city that are now gone, or in some cases new cities coming up could add new elements to the game, and of course, the best way is to engage with other RP communities and really, interact together and have joint stories. But even on just within your own community, there's so many elements that you could bring in, and a new science node pops up, and how is that going to shape the role play and everything that you're doing? So I think it's an exciting part of the game, and one that right now, like, we're all really excited about. Especially role players are excited about. But I think that we're only scratching the surface on how much of this is going to really reshape the way that we experience story and characters. And for me personally, I came to Ashes of Creation because of this element of the game. And I think it's a thing that's going to attract players from all over, and many people who I think at this point, pretty much everybody has played some game out there. I don't think there's going to be too many people that Ashes is going to be their first experience. But I think that there's, in a lot of ways, it'll be our first experience with this kind of gaming environment.
Right. I could see that. Vamoris in our chat says open world roleplay promises to be a truly remarkable experience where one can skillfully navigate the intricacies. Oops, it popped up. Intricacies of the environment and adapt to the imminent perils that lie within. Personally, they prefer to steer clear of the conventional Tavern RP, as they find the expansive world itself to be the grandest stage, brimming with endless possibilities. They think unearthing ruins, being able to decipher what they mean, and to see all of our characters come up with wild assumptions is going to be great, especially if we aren't correct immediately, but could be really fun if we happen to make the right assumption too. And I think that's the breadth of Ashes of Creation when it comes to not only the player's experience, but a role player's experience.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I love that. Those were great comments that they made, because it really gets back to, what I think a lot of us are excited about the game. The possibilities are out there are really endless, and you're going to have groups that, are out there discovering things for the first time in their world. And you're not just going to have this on, the same continent or the same place. Like, there's going to be different servers, and there's going to be server first, as there usually is. It's just because the discovery portion is so new and exciting that it's going to be a big landmark that I don't think we've really seen before. And especially because, the nodes that are built up on one world are going to maybe completely different from the nodes that are built up in another area. And as we've learned, that could unlock different world bosses based on if a node is developed or not, and can really shape like the dungeon experience and all of that. So there's just a lot of opportunity there, and a lot of opportunity for role play out in the open world, which from my experience is some of the most fun role play because it's more organic. Not everything has to be planned, and you can be out there, meeting people for the first time as they're on a caravan run or what have you, or they're going over to investigate a dungeon or what have you, or try to do some, more intel-based role play. There's just a lot of opportunity there that I think, we don't even have like Joe said, we don't even have the full grasp of everything, but even with what little we have, it's really exciting and it gives us a lot of promise. So yeah.
I just wanted to add in one quick thing too. It's funny because one of our members, her character name is Asha. Her and I were actually talking about this very thing the other day. Two aspects of that, and one of them was that Ashes will allow for for more adventure-based events, because Vimoris was saying, I don't like being in Tavern RP, and I think that's a really great call out, because Ashes will almost promote less of the tavern and I think it's mostly called slice of life RP, and more of the open world and external and really engaging in the environment type RP, very naturally. And then the other piece of it is I love that they had mentioned that you're going to find ruins and not know what they mean. It's really funny because we actually have a story thread in our guild running where one of the NPCs is making wild assumptions about these ruins, and it's going to be it's really kind of funny to think about. We're going to be making these assumptions. What are the characters and the players and the guilds going to be role playing about these, only to later find out that maybe it was something completely different. That's super exciting because sometimes that can be the funniest RP, and RP that's funny and engaging and really leads to just people being wrong sometimes can be the most entertaining.
Yeah
Joe, also don't forget we're actually in a tavern right now.
I was actually going to say, I think as the Golden Feather, we obviously make it very roleplay-esque here with the from the way we have you guys introduce yourselves for our intro, to even the way that I plan to kind of run the Golden Feather one day as a web page and a website. In my mind, the look I'm going for is almost that adventure roleplay aspect of like having like the quest board almost kind of feel and other things similar, and I think it's just kind of role playing out that you're new in town. Where do you go usually in D&D and other TTRPGs? You go to the tavern to get the information, and then from there you get like big pieces of lead information, and then you go out into the world and you begin your adventure for real. And or you start bar fights like in one of my D&D groups. But
yeah, I think that's the biggest advantage that you guys are going to have, as being a player-run tavern, is it's very different than what is considered quote unquote. I'm doing quote fingers in real life; you just can't see them. But what is quote unquote?
Tiny little velociraptor arms.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I can hear the giant quotey talons.
Yeah, they click together. With player run taverns, you get an engaging environment. With regular tavern RP, it's like, what you're thinking of a Goldshire, the Goldshire Inn, or in Final Fantasy, you're thinking of Waking Sands, or, sort of the NPC tavern where people just go to hang out. The advantage that you guys are going to have is you're going to have an ever-changing world. You're going to have an environment where you can run a tavern and really make it something special from a player's point of view. Rather than people, and players can go to these places rather than huddling in these NPC taverns, around the world. They can go somewhere where there is a story and there is something engaging. There is going to be those first experiences, and you guys will probably be one of the places where some of the newest RPers go, and we get to be introduced to roleplay through what you guys are creating here.
Yeah, that's our hope. Also, Vertek, you put 1 instead of an exclamation mark just in case you wanted to actually join.
I wish to one join.
By the way, for those of you that are watching, we have a Battle of the Hill kind of thing that goes on. It's just a thing that you can join in on, exclamation mark join. And it's just like a little PvP thing that we have set up. Although our idea is to eventually get the graphics to be more tavern related instead of a Battle of the Hill kind of thing, where maybe we could have like a tilted over table and like some axes and stuff flying off. Maybe a spell will shoot out of nowhere.
Yeah, we got the template from somebody who put it out for a lot of people to use, and we love it. But we want to see if we can like buy the rights to use it elsewhere and like customize it. Nice. The donut has been winning a lot.
Yes, it has.
Well, yeah, see if we can get an artist to do us a little tavern scene, get a tavern brawl going.
It makes fun.
It makes sense that a dwarf won that.
Right.
Glory to the Lord of the Donut. So, Vertek, is there any topics that you want to definitely fit in?
Oh man. There's a couple. One that I thought was kind of neat, that kind of fits into the RP thing, and kind of also fits in some wishes of mine for the housing system.
Okay.
Is player skulls being used as decorational items, but you have to win them through PvP. So WildStar had a cool housing system, which by the way was a whole other conversation somebody had on the forums talking about the housing system and how great it would be to take WildStar as an inspiration. WildStar had a great housing system for people who wanted to decorate. Now imagine if you could take, like you could in WildStar, take almost any item and just turn it into a decoration. And you win player skulls in PvP, and you can just make literally a throne of skulls in your living room or something. Would you see that as something that would be interesting or nifty, to even be able to craft it into weaponry and such? Have almost a necromantic set of gear that you could make out of player skulls from PvP?
Sorry.
No, all good. I just want to add this as well. Ashes and Ears asking for clarification. Named player skulls?
That could be neat too if you hovered over the skull and you had different names. I think that would be cool if they were corrupted players that bounty hunters went and took out. And then you got named player skulls.
Sorry, Cersei, go ahead.
How neat would that be?
I honestly think that would be interesting and cool in its own way. I'm all for, if you could find as many things as you can in the world and actually turn them into decoration, I think that's awesome. And I think it would, I'm not a big PvPer myself, but I know for people who do PvP, that would be a special thing they could actually, take, and it would be like, it's a trophy of sorts. So it's something that they, just like with a regular boss, like whether it's a player or whether it's like you beat this big boss in the world and you get a a drop from it, like that sort of thing. Like it'd be nice if you, maybe it's not even player skulls. Imagine if you just get random body parts. I don't know. Like, I got a hand over here, I got someone's leg over there, and it would be like a random thing. Like, I don't know. I think there's definitely potential there. I'm all for like the more interactable the world, and the more you can kind of mold and customize. Because for me, I loved WildStar. I played it for a very short time because it came out right before ArcAge did.
Right.
And then ArcAge was like, okay, this is my game. But I think that was something that was really cool about that game was the customization. So the more customization we can have, I think the better. As long as, I think as long as it doesn't go to like ArcAge level customization where you have, I don't even know how to describe it. You just got a lot of anime porn basically on people's walls at their house. So,
yeah. I love
that might be a little bit much.
Nair says, and here is my collection of spleens from famous mayors.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. What about you,
how
Joe?
fun
What are
would
your
it be?
thoughts?
I think, and sorry, Vertex, did you want to go first?
Oh, I just wanted to close out the opening part because I keep thinking how neat it would be, because I really want to have a character in the military node as a bounty hunter. I really do. And how cool would it be to literally build a room full of furniture out of skulls, and they're all named people that I hunted down via bounty.
That would be cool. Yeah, I think I can think of at least one guild that if they give you the ability to make, if they give ability to make skulls into items, they're definitely going to do that. So I think that there's, we've already got those players who will really enjoy that and take it to a level that we probably haven't even seen yet. But I think, like Sersei was saying, the more like, it would be great to be able to harvest these things as something that you could put in your house and in the world. And there's plenty of games where you can get like kind of unique items from each person and each monster that you kill, and being able to then turn around and add that item into your creation of something or your crafting and see the effects that it would have. I don't know how that would do with textures in the game. That might be a little bit challenging, there being so many different textures, but it would be, I think it would be great to see just so many different elements of the world, be it skulls or things that you've killed, or things that you've harvested, or things that you've achievements that you've completed, and being able to turn those into items, and especially like armor and maybe weapon decorations and different skins that players could even potentially share with other players, because the player economy is going to be so important, and having these sort of unique items that you made off of things that you did around the world could really help to drive the economy for people who are out there hunting or gathering more, and not really doing as much of the normal things that would make you money.
Yeah. I actually have been sitting here, my mind's been like, I guess, Theorycraft Mind Goper. But would it be neat if certain parts of the world, like for example the cemetery, or certain times of the year prompt a certain kind of holiday or chance of dropping stuff, where perhaps not just skulls, but as somebody else mentioned, other body parts, maybe there is a skeletal hand that you can attach or affix to a staff of some sort that holds a sphere ball at the top for mages, or find other ways to kind of implement the skeletons into weaponry or into decorations to kind of provide that necromantic or that kind of eerie, almost Halloweenish without it being Halloween feeling. But also on top of that, because at the end of the day, when you die, your skull would essentially be whatever race your skull is. Like humans will have a human skull. That's how we identify which one is a human skull versus an animal skull. So maybe being able to have variation depending on which skull you use So if it is something affixed to PvP, dependent on whoever base race you killed, that would be the variation of that item that you got if you collected whatever special thing that dropped. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds cool though. Like I think it would be the more customization they can do, and like you said, with like the skull, or even with like a character hand or leg, like clearly a dwarf leg is going to be different than an orc leg or a hand, and vice versa. So like, as much as they can kind of keep to that and not just have everything be like basically default the same, is I think that's just going to be better all around. And yeah, I do agree with. Not sure what's wrong with them today. I wanted to venture out of bones and skull.
Well, hey, how about something that's potentially a little bit more tasteful, yet also potentially equally more creepy, is like a bandolier or belt made out of finger bones. Little finger bone decorations on it.
Oh my gosh.
That would be interesting. I can definitely see, like, there'll be stuff like this, whether it's actually things you can attain in the world. There's going to be cosmetics that are exactly like that. I can already see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh me, oh my.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I'm about to go to a whole other topic, so if you are not, go ahead.
Oh no, you go. Pick what you're gonna pick.
So going down the vein of roleplay and D&D, there's a conversation on stat growth systems for leveling up, or having stats to assign with each level, which is very common within Pathfinder and D&D and other TTRPG type games. So they're talking about, what do you think about getting attributes or stat points when you level up, and that way you can specialize more into the stat that you want, intelligence, dex, etc. It adds another layer of building your character, so you'll not only rely on gear, your character will feel more unique. What are your thoughts?
I think that's good. I like the idea of further customizing your character, and I think it makes sense, like, as you level up, being able to attribute those types of stats to kind of give them that specialization as they go, that's beyond just initial gear and everything like that. So I think that's a good thing. I'll let Joe kind of put his thoughts down.
Yeah, stats automatically raising based on your class and your level, I think where the stat growth ability and being able to select your own stats will really go to the fact that your class is really defined by your subclass as well. So if you're a mage and you pick and then you pick a fighter class, any of the fighter type classes, but you're not able to assign the stats where you want them to go, that's going to be kind of challenging to make it something that really feels like your own. So having the ability to add stats where you want them each level gives you gives people the ability to create their own classes, their own builds, their own unique way of playing the game, and people will come up with really creative stuff because of it. And I think that's that is something that would be really important to add in a new level of uniqueness to what your character can do and what abilities they have. And it could affect everything from gathering to PvE to PvP to node building, people being able to really have a lot of control over their characters.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I'm all about trying to experience everything that they want to do with Ashes first before I really make comments. But I know their current design theory of basically having the race kind of seed the player's base stats so that you get a little bit of a difference between the different races, but then your primary archetype grows your base stats, and that's just it. You level in whatever your primary archetype is what your stats are going to be.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of that, because if let's say I'm a warrior and I want to go and focus on wielding a greatsword, I'm probably going to train differently than if I were to go and try to be a really quick to like double wielding short sword or bastard sword user or something like that. Or, you know, a tank that's going to be more magey versus more tanky. Like, I feel there should be a little bit more tweaking and adjustment in there that I can decide between, even if it's not a lot, just like a little bit. Give me 10% of my stats to move around. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, Nera says, if this was a single player game, absolutely let us assign stats. But honestly, I kind of prefer the smaller headache of auto-assigned stats simply because of the extra balancing nightmare it would be once people start min-maxing. And then also adds in players can tweak stats through gear.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of a given. You can do that with pretty much every game out there. You get gear and you add gems or enchantments or something, and that's how you tweak stats. And I know that Ashes is going to be a little bit more variable on that, and that's kind of why I was saying that I like to see the systems before I make too much of a solid comment on it, because I don't know, that might be enough variance for me, and I might be perfectly happy with it. But time will tell, I think.
Yeah. The only thing I find with the stat allotment is people tend to utilize the same build when the meta is discovered too. Yeah. And that's one of those other things, like it kind of depends on what kind of player you are. You know, if you're a min-max follower, or if you're, you know, somebody who kind of makes their own or enjoys making their own thing, you know. I have some players that will not go with the normal stat priority for like their classes because they find it more fun having like that what do you call it, like a barbarian who's not nearly as strong as they should be, but then it promotes character growth, right?
Yeah, and you know, it can be tough to balance, and it can make some classes more difficult to play than others. I mean, you know, characters in Ragnarok Online and Ragnarok Origins and basically every version of Ragnarok, you could assign your stats anywhere, and it created some really amazing builds. And as much as, you know, it definitely does impact from a mid-max point of view, you know, players are gonna abuse that. You'll get, you know, super, you know, agility crit type characters that are going to just demolish us in PvP. But at the same time, it also allows people to build builds that nobody else had ever thought of. And then, you know, do things, you know, and play characters in ways that, you know, nobody like that haven't been seen before. So it's really, you know, it adds an element of uniqueness, but it can also, you know, in fairness, add an element of unbalance. And maybe like what Vertek was saying, where, you know, some of your stats you can apply yourself and some of them are based on your class selections. That might be a really nice middle ground.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my brain was. It'd be nice just to move some of them around, to have a little bit of, you know, I hit the gym a little extra in this area every day. You know, I didn't just totally focus on the full body thing that a warrior does.
Yeah. So another thing was, since you guys are unique from your perspective, well, actually, before I do that, Memora says, if it was like Final Fantasy 14, not a PvP focused game, I would love having stat allotment, but the min-max of a PvP game, you'll find people playing that pressure, which could potentially create the this is how you should play mentality, unfortunately. I do love customization though, and I wish there was a way to do it balanced, and I agree that skip leg day every day kind of thing, Vertek.
Exactly.
But coming from you guys particularly, I feel like this answer might be a little bit different. However, Vertek did link this other forum post talking about like what are gameplay elements that keeps players invested in I'm going to say a game and not the game, because, well, Ashes is not out, so there's nothing to keep them invested in this game, but in a game. And some of the answers are talking about PvP with meaningful objectives and having challenges between PvP and PvE, as well as having ways to expand skills. But what are your answers, especially coming from a roleplay heavy perspective?
Yeah, so for me, like, it's really different, because I've played games before. Like, for instance, I'll go back to Arcade because that was a game that I played for a while. But when I first got into Arcade, it was a game where I really enjoyed things. I'm not a PvPer, but I did enjoy PvE. I enjoyed it. I loved the trade system when it first started. Like, I thought it was awesome and amazing. But over time, like, as the game kind of wobbled and like they destroyed things, then that part of the game, like the mechanics part of the game with the PvE and the trade, it fell off for me. But what I kept coming back to was housing. We were able to create a village in Arcade, have taverns, have a little apothecary, have houses, have a trade, a trading house and all that. So that was a lot of fun. We were able to do a lot of that. And what kept me involved was the roleplay and the housing. Like, I did very little other than that and doing events and everything like that. But I'm not so naive to understand that everyone's different. That's the key here, is like, I could play that game and I could just do housing and I would be perfectly fine. I wouldn't do anything else. But for a lot of people, if the content isn't good, if you're not enjoying like the PvP side, or if you don't even have friends to play with, there's a lack of engagement there. And so it really, honestly, it comes down to, what people enjoy. I think for role players, a big part of what keep us engaged in a game is honestly our friends. And I think that can be said for gamers in general. As long as we have our friends together and we're online doing things, that's what keeps us engaged. So whether it's we're all role playing, we're all doing, PvE, or we're all doing PvP, it comes down to having our friends and gaming together. And that's kind of what keeps us all connected. Once people stop dropping off, start not logging in, or there's a lack of motivation to do that, that's when the game kind of just drops. And that's when people just like, I'm not actually going to, get on anymore because no one's online. Like, you see those people who pop in for like 5 minutes and they're like, no one's here, and then they pop out, and that's
it. Okay, well, thank you, Snickers, for just dropping in. Cheers to you.
Thanks for stopping in on the way to sleepy time. Yeah, thanks for the resub. Cheers.
But Memora says, Vertec made a really good point during a live stream about PvP and PvE. The dungeons raids are going to involve a layer of roleplay and PvE mentality that really plays to the risk and reward. I'm excited to see how people handle the raids and dungeons while trying to fight off players.
It's going to be interesting. It really is. And to see how the server either cooperates or combats each other.
Golden Father.
Over all of that.
No, so we should rename the channel to Golden Father.
Golden Father. Nice.
Oh my gosh. But I agree. And some of the things other people said were, achievements, which is definitely Vertec and my biggest thing. And the other thing that drives me is if you have anything that will reward me with like a cosmetic, I will do it. Or mount. I will do it. Because I like that stuff. And that does kind of go back to roleplay in a way, because you care about the way that your character looks in a game. And, having those cosmetics that make you look the way that you want kind of add to the feeling of your character, and you kind of begin to make this persona, if you will, with your character in games, especially when it comes to the types of armor and such.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point too. It's those achievements, and it's setting those goals. So whether it is PvE, PvP, or even roleplay and character progression, it's those goals that keep people coming back a lot of the time, because everyone like a boss they want to defeat or a special armor set they want to go for, and they set those goals. And as long as they keep that and keep that motivation, they're still on that line. So yeah, I agree. And yeah, cosmetics are huge.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be, almost utterly frustrating, but you're going for one set and you're like, I need this set in order to complete my whole character image, and you're fighting for it the whole way through.
Yeah. And I think World of Warcraft had like that entire scavenger hunt that you had to do and do it just right to get certain things. And that was kind of fun and frustrating all at once.
Yeah, and I think really a big piece of what is needed to keep people engaged is no matter what type of end game it is, there has to be some kind of end game, some kind of very strong end game, and that's one of the reasons that people like Final Fantasy so much. Final Fantasy 14 is because there's so much end game, and everybody knows the real end game is housing, of course, but and other games where it's hard to keep an RP community operational sometimes, like World of Warcraft, sometimes with some expansions really struggled with the end game piece. And it was hard to keep the roleplay community going because people would stay loyal for a while, but eventually get bored of just playing the game. Yeah. So and not to say that people are bored of everybody's bored of World of Warcraft, but depending on the expansion, you would sometimes see a huge influx of players coming and going and coming and going. There was a constant churn and turnaround. So I think that end game piece is what's really important. And Ashes of Creation, even though it's a world that's ever changing and the nodes are ever developing and there's PvP, there's still going to have to be some kind of strong end game element for when you reach max level and when you get the gear that you're looking for, something to continue to keep that engagement. Maybe it's ships, maybe it's exploration, maybe it's like you said, cosmetics, but I think that's really the most to me is always the most vital thing about what keeps me engaged in a game is when I get to the end and I accomplish the goals and I get the achievements I want, what do I do next? Is there some kind of plan for what I'm going to do, what to keep me engaged in next so that I don't go play something different while I'm waiting for new content to come out?
Right.
And see, I think I'm right on board with what you're saying there. It's people talk about you can motivate somebody with either the stick or the carrot. You got to choose one, whichever works best for the person or whatever. I think MMOs need to work with like a double carrot system. They need to have one thing that feels very rewarding and amazing for people to do as like a very good general goal that most people can hit and obtain and it feels good for them, but then another carrot that's much harder to really obtain, be it collectibles like achievements and things that are actually rewarding and feel rewarding to people other than those who just want to get I just want to get all the stuff that looks cool because I'm a cosmetic maniac, but if there were also like an achievement or some kind of award or title, and hey Scoots, thank you so much, I'm gonna give you a cheers for that. Yum. But give us something maybe even a little bit more tangible to sticking around and playing more and doing more stuff and helping your friends get that stuff and watching
Snickers,
Scoots give away more.
Snickers.
Or no, Snickers, oh my goodness. I saw Scoots, it was at the top of my chat and I just saw it bump up. Snickers, thank you. That's a double cheers.
Appreciate it. Welcome in new Tavern keepers. FUM on the top. That's funny.
Yeah, like it leaves some stuff out there, and even actual challenging content that's tough besides just finding all the things. So like,
yeah,
a lot of games have like the hard modes and stuff like that, but I think some of them make it too accessible for everybody, so they don't give the hardcore players something to really reach and feel as a solid goal. As Alexia, thank you so much. Look, you just start a hype train. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Limited time to earn exclusive emotes. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
But yeah, the majority of players are going to be either casual or somewhere in the middle of hardcore and not. But the hardcore people are going to get through the content and then not care about the casual achievements and cosmetics and stuff. They're just going to kind of drop out and run away. But if you can hook them in with some truly challenging content that's going to be basically for the hardcore, and it's just a modification around the normal content, it's not like essential for the storyline.
Yeah,
I think is another part of the second carrot that can hang out there and dangle.
And another thing that I want to turn us over to, speaking of like harder content, Ashes of Creation announced today that they will be doing their live stream on the 31st, not the upcoming Friday, the 26th, but instead the following Wednesday, on the 31st. And so there is the link there for you to submit your questions. And they will be live at 5 p.m. So because of that, though, I just also want to take this moment to kind of do an aside. Because of that, we will not be doing, I think, if it's okay to go ahead and announce that part. I don't think we're going to be doing a live stream next week, but we are thinking of just doing a Discord hangout with maybe people coming and just hanging out in the Discord channel with us. Feel free to drink if you want to drink. Not promoting anything, but we are a tavern. But namely, come hang out with us, play some games, perhaps some Jackbox, perhaps some Gartic Phone, things that we can do off stream that are less. Drink water, exactly.
Drink water, lots of water.
But just Jackbox, like just all of those party pack games, and just without the worry of potentially being booted off of the purple app. So we were initially going to say that next week would be tentative, but I think we decided before going live, or just recently, like just doing a more hangout session with you guys would be more enjoyable, because at that point we will be in a house with us, a blow-up mattress, a pop-up table, and our computers, and I think a monitor.
Yeah, it's going to be like the computer and a monitor, so definitely not a streaming setup with our giant lights, and I have a giant ultra wide and 2 monitors set up.
Yeah.
And,
just keeping it low key. I have more to announce officially later, but I might provide that to our subscribers. So, by the way, for those of you that got subscribed today, join our Discord. There's a certain subscription area, so that's where we give a lot of the up-to-date announcements, or our just live thoughts of, I think I might do this, I don't know, what are your thoughts kind of section. So but to kind of bring the topic back to our conversation, because we were just talking about roleplay, PvP, PvE, Intrepid plans for a multi-party raid during the next live stream. What? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that I thought was pretty cool. So they had, and let me see if I can copy image address. We put this out there because it was snipped and saved up there for us by Niker, saying, Ashes of Creation News said, are we going to see a decent amount of people take down the Cyclops this month, or is it more of a small party going over the design process of the boss? And Ashes of Creation's official Twitter responded with the plan, Twitter. The plan is for a multi-party raid. Who would you want to be your raid leader against a Cyclops?
I would definitely want the Raptor. Because he's a raptor.
Because he's a raptor. Yes. That's true. I like
it. I said one heck of a battle scream. Show me your war face.
Let me just ring up some of the raptor homies to go and take down this Cyclops.
Yeah, there you go.
Show me your war face.
Yay, thank you guys.
I think it's awesome though that we could see the multi-party raid in general. I think that's going to be really fun to kind of see how they all interact, especially I think seeing that kind of as things evolve, because with every stream it's like we see a little bit more and a little bit more. And obviously, as they've upgraded their systems and, you know, the world itself and the mobs, you know, it's nice to see how the different classes interact. I think that's something that I've enjoyed as they've added more classes with each stream. We're seeing how, you know, the tank and the archer and all of them kind of work off of each other, and it's going to be cool because I'm hoping they'll include like the mage now and just have that synergy, kind of how they all operate and support one another.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, Vimoris, aka Nihilio, says, "Give us a sound effect of a raptor, Joe."
No, I don't want to scare people. I mean, I can't sing the song of my people like on demand like that.
It's nice.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Richard,
yeah,
sorry.
Scoots, by the way, it's full Jurassic Jacket. It's
Yeah,
the new
there you
movie. Coming out in 2099. Be ready for it.
2099. I'll be long gone by then.
That's 65 million years in the making.
Yeah, true. Takes a long time, you know.
I love it. But yeah, also I just put in chat there a link to a video made by one of our friends, Richie SH.
Yes.
Saying Ashes of Creation is going all out for first Alpha 2 raid boss reveal. But yeah, he talks about the multi-party raid and how it could be, you know, if it's 3 parties, like it's gonna be 24 people. Who knows if they have 4, 5, 6 parties? It might be a full 40-person raid. Who knows? How great would that be to have almost the full studio just in there, like trying to demolish a Cyclops there?
Yeah, that'd be cool, actually. I think that would be fun to see it from different people's perspectives. That'd be neat.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that he was talking about in that video, is how cool would it be to have multiple perspectives on it. Like, let's say a full 40-man raid, and the leader of each party would be representing that party with their viewpoint in there. So you have like 4 or 5 different cameras going. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Balsiak, I'm not really sure. That's not something I would know anything about. I think that was just something that they're still doing a bunch of internal testing on. So probably I could see Maggie heading one, and then maybe Scott heading another.
Yeah, I think Bochi. I think didn't Steven say something like they were going to be maybe doing more internal testing later this year, and then maybe open it up to PI next year or something.
Yeah.
I forget what he said exactly, but it was something along those lines. It basically it boiled down to not doing any testing this year.
Yeah, which was which was kind of a bummer, but I was more worried that it was going to be a repeat of Alpha 1, where Alpha 1 was released during the time we were moving.
Oh man, yeah, it was terrible.
I was like, no, I don't really get to play.
We got like 4 days worth of playing.
Yeah, it was sad, but we met some fun peoples.
I tested nothing but the starting zone, which everybody else already tested.
Yes.
Like crazy.
I tested that mainly because I kept drinking the poison. I did not realize that the poison killed me the first time. I thought a random player killed me. So what did I do when I rezzed? I went back and I drank the poison, and then I died, and then it connected, and by then I already had so much XP debt.
When I was in Alpha 1, I didn't do anything right. Like, I think if there was something to do right, I didn't do it right. But yeah. I just spent the time I was in there, I just was running around the world. I just was like, I want to see what the world looks like. I want to see how good everything looks. And obviously that was not what this game is now. So I'm even more excited with everything being upgraded and seeing the world and the streams to actually get into it now and be able to kind of explore. Like, that's one of the most fun things for me, is being able to explore this big open world and all the possibilities that really exist there.
Yeah, I agree.
Can you imagine? There's going to be world first happening for years off the initial release alone.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, like, you know, the way the world is crafted, like, everything that's built can be destroyed. So, you know, there's going to be generations, potentially, obviously, generations of people coming through where it will be like almost like a new world first at that point. So nothing is set in stone, which I think is interesting as well.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of things not being set in stone, what do you think the final three gods will be? This is from Demostras saying, the only two major things I could think of for gods would be a nature god and a god of the seas. But what do you think?
And so I know you folks are all about that lore on your channel, posting stuff up there. I am only slightly brushed up on the multiple different gods. I do know that we're missing, what is it, 2 of the 7 and all 3 of the others.
Yeah,
as far as like what they represent.
Yeah, I haven't really, honestly, I haven't thought a lot about that, but it does make sense that, you know, like the whole god of the sea, and like there's going to be things like that you don't even think of. I think it's not going to be clear, because I like how they've actually approached the different gods and what they represent, like truth and hope and all of that. Because, like, for instance, different characters in roleplay worship different gods. And so, for instance, my character worships the god of hope. Where I know other characters, I think is it the elves? I think the elves worship the god of truth. I believe that's right. But I just like that there is that, you know, there are gods of truth, there are gods of hope, and so being to have that variety is going to be interesting. But I actually haven't thought a lot about that. What about you, Joe?
Well, I mean, clearly they have to have a god of dinosaurs. No, I think that part of the reason they probably have, been slow walking the last 2 and not put them out yet is it'll probably be something that we really haven't thought of. And, we may not get to see those until the very end, because I know that there's some stuff that they're waiting to release until as close to launch as possible. So I think it's whatever the last 2 are going to tie very deeply into the story that they've kept so close to the chest of regarding, you know, what the world's about, why Sanctus was chosen as the home that everybody was sent to, you know. So I think it'll have something to do with that. And I don't know what that'll look like, but I have a feeling it'll be very heavily related into the story that hasn't been released yet, and that's probably why we haven't seen what they are yet.
Yeah, the god of time too, I think that was mentioned. I think that is also a big possibility as well. God of time, a god and goddess of destruction. That would be interesting too.
I was just responding to Nahili in chat about it would be cool to have a god of time or a goddess of time where if as a world event the seasons lasted longer, aka time slowed down, or perhaps if you angered the god, the time sped up and the seasons were shorter. That'd be really cool. I feel like that would be an interesting way of incorporating the time element without like slowing down time in a kind of game breaking manner.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're going to end up doing something almost like opposites of some of those, like say goddess of creation, maybe they'd be a god of destruction. Because fate is kind of, it's neither a positive nor negative, right? But love and creation are two big positives, so maybe a destruction, and they'd probably come up with something better than like hatred or something like that for the god of love. Maybe war or something like that. Strife, god of strife.
Yeah.
Which would kind of be opposing to hope as well.
Yeah, true. I can see that.
On topic, but a little off topic, you know, with the 3 gods, the other quote unquote gods, we'll probably see one of those have something to do with monsters and, you know, sort of these legendary bosses, you know, like dragons and the other things that are going to be really, you know, node based raid monster events. I think we'll probably see one of the other 3 gods have something to do with that.
Yeah.
Something like a can almost see something like a god of misfits or god of the unwanted or something like that, and maybe that's something that Tolnar started to lean towards during the time everyone else left him behind.
Yeah. Ashes and Air says, are the 10 gods the only gods or just the big major ones? Maybe we'll see some lesser gods or demigods as well as the game progresses. Scoots says, yeah, I kind of hope they don't reveal too much before the final release. I plan to be part of the remaining alpha beta test, but I do want some surprises for the final release, and I think that's their hope, is to do something like that. But I also agree with Nihili. Nihili says, I really hope they go over the faith system more, on the progression of that as well. And yeah, God of Sandals. And for those of you that have been here before, when I was trying to run a poll and I copied a emote and I accidentally typed out Goddess of Palms. God of people who use their phones in movie theaters could be one of the others. Oh gosh. But yeah, I don't know. I think it would be really, really neat, and I look forward to seeing what Intrepid kind of puts together. And I especially love discovering the world as I play the most.
Yeah. And
I think that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. And wanted to track back a little bit and cover a few things in chat that, unless my ears blinked for a moment, I'm not sure if we chatted about for a moment there, but Threather, yeah, the raid boss question is actually really good. I know GildedHouseRP responded with it being a good question, but yeah, to see if your stacks can get spent by somebody else or if they're your personal stacks, that's definitely a big one. Surprised I didn't even think of that myself yet. And Bochi, yeah, I know they did say late this year, early next year for PI/internal. And yeah, it would be cool if PI or somebody got able to go in there and do some testing by the end of the year, but I'm not sweating it too much. And your next comment about ways to track achievements, I'm pretty sure Steven said there were going to be achievements and such. And I would assume if there's going to be achievements, there's got to be a way to track them, or else you'll never be able to prove to anybody that you ever got them. And at that point, you may as well not put achievements in. That's my assumption. They might be silly enough to not put one in, but who knows?
Yeah. And then finally we have this wonderful image taken by Z and her lovely creations. And this week's creation is of the Sage Plump Companion. Plump Companion? I'm not sure if you're supposed to... Plump Companion.
Yeah. It's a weird word.
Yeah, Ashes of Creation says, as you adventure through Vera, what cute companions would you love to have follow you around? And I know that back when they first started, they had the cats versus dogs, I think, competition.
Yeah, there were, I want to say there were like 3 or 4 different animals that they ended up putting up for vote.
Yeah.
I don't remember what all of them were. I know there was the Peacat.
Yeah, there was a few. I don't remember. It was a very long time ago. The little duckling is clearly the best pet to have all around. Yeah. I want all but the boring cows. And that was a lot of things that people said are like, you have all these like fantastical creatures and then just cows.
Just cows.
Cows.
I think they just were, because so many people just love cows so much. I mean, I hear that. Yeah, I hear that all the time. Where people were like, "Oh, cows!" And it's like, yeah, they're super. Yeah, it's a cow. There's a bunch of them in a field.
Yeah, like you know what? I was totally into League of Legends for the longest time, but I never saw one cow, so I had to just stop. It got pretty boring.
It is funny though, because this game has all these fantastical creatures in it.
Mm-hmm.
I had someone actually in our roleplay community, not in our community, but in the roleplay community in general, brought up a good point. Like, how they have like the giant, like vicious, almost looking otter mounts.
Yeah.
And first of all, I like saw that and I was like, I didn't even know this existed. But they made a good point. It was like, are there like normal otters? Like, are there going to be like normal size otters in the world, or is we're just going to have this big otter type mount and things like that? So I think you're going to have people that are like, oh, I wonder if they just have like little a little normal bunny rabbit over here? Or is it going to be one of those things where it looks like a bunny rabbit, but it probably will devour you? So
Yeah.
it's a raptor, but it looks like a bunny rabbit. So there's a lot of things. I think it's going to be interesting to see all the creatures in the world and what you can actually have for your companions.
Yeah. The other says, cows are awful pets. Unless you were their owner, you never get to snuggle them, crying face. Villian Davy, welcome in, says ottermonts are the best. Cal says, tons of folks will have cows in their strongholds. Easy farm swag. But this says, those ottermonts are the normal-sized ones. Wait until you see the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Just saying, they're all cute until you get eaten by a pack of them.
Right. Grogus says otters are deadly. Alexia says, I would love to see longhorn cows, though. A mighty python rabbit? Oh, that's terrifying. Tidebreaker is a cutie. I liked the turtle that changed seasons.
Oh my
That'd
gosh,
be cool to
yeah.
have like a little mini one of those as a pet.
I can't remember if I bought one of those, but I kind of really hope I did.
Cal says it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't have a Monty Python Rabbit World boss. Alrighty, well, shall we get into the wrap-ups as we prepare our raid?
Yeah. So
my question... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you had an actual question. Go for it.
I did. So my question to you guys is, do you have anything upcoming in the next month or weeks in terms of community events that our friends here should be aware of?
Yeah, we're actually... Next week, we're going to have our monthly roleplay meeting where we've got some exciting updates we're going to be rolling out. So we've got that on the boards. And then, that's going to be, is that going to be on Friday? Next Friday, Joe, right?
Yep, next Friday.
All right, so for those of you that are seeing this on YouTube, that will be tomorrow. Because this will go out on YouTube for everybody next Thursday. So.
Nice. Yeah, so we'll have our monthly roleplay meeting where we update, where we are with our roleplay story, and we go over a lot of different things that are kind of tied to that immersion building of our community. Mm-hmm. And we'll also be talking a little bit more about the rank structure in our branches and stuff as well. So people can actually progress their characters as they, roleplay and interact and attend events and, complete different challenges and everything like that. So, there's a lot of potential there. And then we'll have another community meeting after the live stream. So once we have the next Ashes live stream, we'll do a roundup and do a community meet on that. So that'd be exciting, and that'll probably be a couple weeks down the road, but it's a lot on the boards just with that. And then we'll have, of course, our regular game nights and all of that.
Very nice.
Yeah, I believe there's a new video coming out from Nahili as well that should be out next week too.
Nice.
Yep, Nahili's got more lore videos in the cooker, as we say. So he's always working on those. So we'll have more of those posted next week for everyone to enjoy as well on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. And for those of you watching our YouTube channel for this live stream, those links will be in the description below.
Well, and as always, thank you everybody for hanging out with us, giving us your time and attention and love and conversation. Your time spent here, just hanging out with us and participating in conversation with us and our lovely guest is, of course, the greatest possible support you can give us. And we love every minute of it.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
And with that, we are going to carry on with roleplay tradition. And from one roleplay guild to another roleplay guild, we shall raid over to Bogli Ramhart. Thank you. And thank you for you guys being, interested in joining our podcast as well. We always look for new people to join in. I'm so grateful that Sersei was kind enough to let us borrow now 4 of you. So we love meeting new faces. We love getting to know you guys. And it just, yeah. You love the scroll dynamic. Thank you.
Yeah, and I, thank you so much for having us on here. It's great to get a chance to not just talk about like our community, but what really Ashes of Creation has coming out for all of us, and the new things that we're going to get to see, and the things that we hope for, and that always makes for a great topic, because it gives people ideas of what they can add into the questions for the next official live stream. So I really appreciate you guys inviting us today.
No problem.
Yeah, it was great to be part of this, and I'm glad we got to speak about, again, our roleplay community, but the roleplay community in general. And if someone is new to roleplay, just know you've got a home. You can find a home with role players, whether it's with us or another community. Just check us out, Ashes of Creation Roleplay Community.
There you go. We'll see you next time.
See you everybody next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.